first impression of graffiti artists were that they were like these folk heroes of the ghetto, right?
Oh.
Of the working class neighborhoods I grew up in. So, but then years later, when I started getting older and I started learning more about art, I realized that outside of the Bronx and outside of people of color, working class neighborhoods, graffiti was considered vandalism. It was considered a very low art form. And, you know, as I studied and did some traveling, you know, I saw New York style graffiti in Mexico when I went. I saw New York style graffiti in Paris when I went. It's all over the West Coast. And I realized that this style that was formed, I mean, the roots of graffiti go even further back than the really big, bright murals that we know. A lot of it started as like gang markings that weren't as decorative. They were just more territorial writing, like tagging, right? But like the big, really animated, elaborate pieces that people spend hours and hours doing and designing, that was sort of a later development. The Bronx of that era of graffiti is the Bronx people still think of. It's the burning buildings. It's the war-torn, you know, the most horrific place in America, and that's still a stigma that the Bronx is trying to shake because things have changed so drastically since then. So, amidst all of that horror and all of that starvation and poverty, the creative spirit of people in their communities endured. So once the gangs were sort of dissolved by people like Africa Bambaataa and other activists, challenged the gangs to stop killing one another, basically the gang members, and said, why don't you take out that, why don't you use that competitive streak in you for creative means? People associate graffiti to rebellion, to activism, to do it yourself. Fine, you know, maybe I can't afford to go to art school. Maybe I'm discriminated against because of my skin color or my nationality or whatever, my gender, my sexual orientation, whatever it is. In some ways, it continues to blow my mind because if someone grows up having a lot of privilege and they're able to go to really good art schools and they learn, I don't know, master techniques of oil painting from Flanders in the 19th century, well, that's great and all, but their whole life made it so much easier for them to be able to do that. Whereas someone who only has his imagination, almost in some ways has to excel in a much harder way to achieve anything extraordinary. So I mean, basically what I'm saying is when the odds are stacked against you and you're able to achieve greatness on that level, it's almost more impressive to me.
I don't think graffiti is a bad thing. People just express their thoughts and emotions into art. People show what they truly feel in life. It ain't a bad thing. From what I've seen, all I've seen is artwork. Everywhere in the Bronx. From Stratford, the Morrisons, even Boone, 174, everywhere. You know, people just show their love and emotions to the thoughts and creativity of what they do here, you know? A lot of people be like, oh, you know, graffiti's bad, it ruins shit. No, it doesn't really ruin anything, you know? Honestly, I just feel like it just shows people's emotions and how they feel, you know? And I've seen nothing but beauty and artwork and mad colors, you know, everywhere. That's all I've seen. I honestly, I think graffiti's cool. I've always loved it. I wish I could do it, you know, I wish I could do it on cars, you know, I wish I could do it on, you know, walls, and honestly, I feel like these people just got talent. That's about it.